20th, 2013 meeting of the Agenda Charter Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Howland?
Here.
Ms. Cayley? Here. Mr. McCann? Here. Mr. Patterson? Here. Mr. Rocco? Here.
Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
Is there anyone present who is not signed up to speak who would like to address the committee at this time? Fine. Can you state your name when you get to the podium, please?
My name is Thomas Gregory, and I reside in Brighton. And I'd like to talk about what was reported in Gannett newspapers for a second here. I understand you're planning on introducing a motion to cut back on the staff that would result in the cutting back of the staff on the Democrat side. As you know, I did a lot of work for this legislative body volunteering, and I'm not a criminal for this legislative body. Well, I am a criminal, but not that way. My point is that back when I was doing the research for you, I crossed this path before when the Republicans were the minority. And basically, if you look at the newspaper that was reported, and I'll give Mr. Holland this article here, you'll find that when Republicans were in the minority, that the Democrats had really cut back on their funding, so we had to cut back legislative assistants, and we had to basically cut back on staff. And when I read the Gannett newspapers, I was thinking about this tit for tat going on back and forth. It doesn't serve the public well at all. Bottom line is that I don't like a lot of the things that the Democrats have to say. I generally find myself aligned with the Republicans. But by gosh, I'm certainly glad to hear them be able to say it and to have staff that can help them and support their accusations, no matter how far-fetched they might be, or the points that they would like to make in the interest of preserving what we call a democracy. And I think an important thing for this legislative body to remember is that the democracy isn't like what the Nazis had in Germany, where someone played a song and everyone marched in line. Sometimes there really is true controversy. And to have that true controversy, you have to have aides who basically assist in doing the research that helps support the ideas that we might not like to hear. This article that I'm going to give to your chairman says exactly what I'm saying, except it was Republicans back by the Times-Union, February 22nd, 1989, who were at the short end of the stick. What I would like to see, and I think it's fair to say, is an amendment to that amendment, or whatever is going to happen here, and that the charter be amended in a way that we always have preserved for both the Republicans and the Democrats at least 2 legislative aides. I think that should be part of our charter. If that's what it takes, if that's the cost to have democracy work in Monroe County, it's not a very big price. And I think we got to get rid of this garbage tit-for-tat stuff. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. You have the April 22nd, 2013 minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on the agenda is new business.
Referral 13-150.
Moved by Legislator McCann, seconded by Legislator Rocco. Is there any discussion? Before we start, I would like to have the author of this referral speak to it so we can perhaps make it a little clearer to everyone. Legislator Tucciarella.
Thank you, Chairman Holland, for the opportunity to address this committee. I have submitted amendments to the rules of this body. Rule 54636 states that this honorable body shall appropriate annual an amount for operation of both Republican and Democrat staff office. Those appropriations are made based on each caucus's representation in the body at the organizational meeting. As it stands, the rule does not provide a fair representation of the electorate. Since the rule does not account for midterm elections, legislators who are elected by the people of his or her district to fulfill the remainder of a term are not given the resources to meet the needs of their constituents. By reallocating funding at the January meeting every year following an election of a legislator, it will allow for more accurate reflection of legislative representation in Monroe County. All we are asking for is sensible and reasonable reform to the rules so that we can meet the constituents' needs in District 16 in the town of Irondequoit. The Republican majority is honored that the voters in the last election chose to increase the size of our caucus. The people of District 16 in Irondequoit deserve to have a legislator with the resources to meet their needs. The current outdated practice thwarts the intent of the electorate, and this proposal honors the will of the voter. To suggest that this proposal is anything but a fair and equitable way to ensure that the residents of Monroe County receive proper representation in this body is simply incorrect and unjustified. Mr. Chairman, what you have before you tonight addresses an unprecedented anomaly in this legislative body. In the past, a party typically retains a legislative seat during a midterm election. My research shows that since 2000, any vacancy triggering a midterm election was filled by the party of the person causing that vacancy. In this case, Republicans prevailed, changing the makeup of this legislative body. This is a byproduct of redistricting and term limits. Out-of-cycle elections will become more frequent as legislators will exit this honorable body prior to the conclusion of their term. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, I urge your committee to take the necessary action in supporting this referral to honor the will of the electorate in Legislative District 16 in Irondequoit and all midterm elections moving forward. I'm happy at this time to field any questions from the members of this committee.
Okay, at this time I open the floor for discussion. Legislator Kaley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and quite frankly, I don't know where to start. I appreciate the maker of this referral being willing to answer questions, but again, when this was enclosed in the packet, I have to say that the jaw drops open. I'm going to start off by asking, I answered one of my own questions, so I'm going to start off by saying that I'm urging this body to vote against this referral, as it is not as it seems. And I'm going to take a moment to explain this using the Rotary four-way test. I know that we have a number of Rotary members on this legislative body, but even if we did not, the Rotary four-way test holds a test that gives you the option to truly judge something for what it is and whether or not it's a good road to take. The first rule is it the truth? I don't really wish to say that Legislator Tucciarello is being disingenuous, but I don't believe that it is the truth. Had we not had a majority-led redistricting and tacked onto that the new rule of 4-year terms, we would not be in this particular state. We would still have had 2-year terms and 4-year terms, and it would have gone on as it was and caused this not to be needful at all. So it is not the truth. 2, is it fair to all concerned? I submit that it is not fair to all concerned, and I have numbers and feelings to base that. I truly doubt that the new legislator, Dr. Carbone, does not have the resources that are needed for him to represent his constituency in Irondequoit at this point. And I would say so based on the fact that Democrats control 35% of the seats in this room, only 35. But as for the budget, we handle roughly 15%. Now that's not apples to apples, it's not oranges to oranges, that's nothing. We have 35% of the budget, and we have a very small staff to do so, and the other side has a very complemented staff. So to use the argument that one legislator has been reduced by only having, let me do my math, 85% to handle their budget and their staffing is laughable, and it is not fair to all concerned, nor is it fair to my constituency or Mr. Patterson's constituency, all of whom need, and I will submit that the speaker tonight made sense, even though sometimes I say things that are often left field, as he said. He did make sense that staffing for any group should be based on not just a capacity, but the amount of people that you're serving. Certainly. We're all serving, what is it, roughly 25,000 people apiece? And yet you would sit there and say that it is fair to my constituency to reduce the staffing level, if that's in fact what happens, by the amount that you're suggesting? That is not fair. Enough said on that. Number 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? I kind of think not. There have been a number of rules, changes, passive-aggressive behavior in the last 2 weeks to fill a book. And this does not build goodwill, not only for the constituents that we represent in the city, but for ourselves as well. And number 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? I'd go back to anything that I just said. No, it is not beneficial to everyone concerned. It would certainly be beneficial to the legislator that represents Irondequoit, but I truly doubt that this legislator said, hey, I don't have enough representation, enough money to do my job. We need to get this done differently. This stems back from a reallocation of services and terms back after the census, and is fueled only by what has been going on in the past month. It is not the truth, it is not fair to all concerned, and it will not build goodwill and better friendships, and most certainly it is not beneficial to all concerned. It is only beneficial to the majority that serves now. History beyond. This has not happened this way since who knows when. And when the majority does flip, and most likely it will, but who knows if it will flip in my lifetime here in these chambers, I would expect my colleagues that serve not to behave in this fashion. It is not moral, it is shameful, and it will most certainly go down with everyone that votes yes for this as a point of shame. I watched as people voted to remove Mr. Lightfoot from committee. And the number of legislators that voted to remove him did not do so with their head held high. You can tell the difference when you vote for something that you truly do not believe in. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Legislator Patterson.
Thank you. We currently have $2 million a year is spent on the legislative budget, and of that, the Democrat, our side.
Excuse me, Mr. Patterson, could you speak a little louder, please?
Oh, well, wow, first time that's happened. All right, well, we're looking at legislative budget of $2 million a year. Currently, the Democratic, one of the, just a quick point, and I'm sure we need to edit this at some point in time in a referral. For the record, I am a member of the Democratic Party, not the Democrat Party. We probably need to change that in a referral, a couple instances there. But on the Democratic side, our total staff budget is roughly $180,000, and I'm rounding that up. 45% of that, the county actually tells us how to spend. I find it curious that in May, it suddenly comes to your attention that the long-suffering and recently elected legislator in Irondequoit is not receiving adequate services. when we've had some other changes in this body prior to that. And so it leads one to wonder about the real motivation behind this particular referral. It leads one to wonder whether or not this might simply be payback for the hard work and due diligence that the staff and members of this body have done over the last few months to highlight the spirit of fear that has been developed across this county and our workforce, in particular in our county hospital. We saw a little payback during the last county ledge meeting when you specifically targeted my dear colleague, Willie Lightfoot, and strove to remove him from boards that he had served on with distinction.
Point of order, is this pertaining, are we?
Yes, it is pertaining, sir. The pertinent point being, quite honestly, I understand how this vote's going to go. You know how this vote's going to go. But what I would really like to hear from the other side is for you to have the honesty and courage to just simply say that it's payback. You're doing it because you can, so you're going to ram it through and you're going to make us pay. I would like you to have the honesty and the courage to state clearly that you're doing it because you got the power to do it, and because you honestly believe.
I ask you to go through the chair, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because there is a reason for
Through
that.
the chair.
Thank you very much.
I'd like you to have the honesty and the courage to speak clearly and say, you know what? All that other noise aside, we're doing it because we can, and we're going to stick it to you, and we're going to keep sticking it to you, and we're going to keep sending the message across this county that if you cross the Republican Party, the Republican Party is going to come back at you. I'd like you to have that honesty and courage, gentlemen. But you know what? I'm calling you out, and I don't think you're going to do it.
Legislator Patterson, is this the way we're supposed to run a meeting?
Unfortunately, sir, the way this body now runs, it does appear that way.
I ask you to calm down.
I will not be calm. I will not be calm in the face of this inequitable distribution, sir.
I'm going to find on the point of order, and the point of order is upheld. What you were talking about had nothing to do with this motion.
No, nothing to do with this motion. The inequitable distribution of funds currently that exists. The inequitable distribution of funds. The inequitable distribution of funds currently through the chair. The inequitable distribution of funds that currently exist in this body for the two sides that hasn't been addressed for years. But now you decide you'll take even more from us. It's payback, gentlemen. We know it, you know it. Be men. Speak up. Stand up. Represent. Because that's what we do on this side. We stand for people. We fight for those people you look down upon. And you know what? You're going to do what you're going to do. And we know it. But don't think we're going to stop fighting. Don't think we're going to back up off you.
Is there any further discussion? Legislator McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really disagree with the tone and the tenor of the debate tonight. To me, what we're considering here tonight is really pretty straightforward. This body, when we adopted the redistricting, in a bipartisan vote, I'm pretty sure it was a bipartisan vote, decided to change our legislative cycle, and with that change, there was also a change in the organizational meeting and the rules as to how this body functions. And I am going to be leaving this body at the end of this year through term limits. And to somehow suggest that the Republican caucus is automatically entitled to the 1/29th of the budget that I represent to serve the constituents of my district somehow automatically is an entitlement of the Republican Party, regardless of who is elected this November to succeed me, is frankly ridiculous. And to have these protests and this outrage, frankly, makes no sense to me. and again, that's me as one legislator, to somehow think that at that snapshot of 2012, when we had that organizational money, that there was an entitlement, that this money stays with the party that elected me, regardless of who serves, for the entire 4-year cycle, makes no sense. And, I think you could debate the whole issue as to whether or not that whole practice for a 2-year cycle made sense, but it was less time. But when we as a body in a bipartisan manner decided to change that cycle, it's inevitable that we make this change that we're asked to consider tonight. And for there to be outrage on the other side, I know off the top of my head, I'm leaving this year. We're going to have 3 people on our side of the aisle running for other offices this year. And if they're successful, there will be elections for those spots. And again, if those happened at a different point in a cycle, you could have 4 people who are elected gone, and to somehow say that 4/29 of that budget is automatically locked in because of something that happened in 2012 is ridiculous. And again, I don't see a good reason to suggest, as a legislator, our rules and our policies dictate that I am representative of 1/29 of that budget. And my constituents, the people I represent, and the people that everybody represents, are entitled to have the freedom to vote who they want to vote for, and have the expectation that that money will be there so that they will have the resources necessary to represent them in the future. So I totally disagree with the characterizations of what this is, what this represents, and I guess I'll stop there and I'll leave it at that. I will be voting for this tonight. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Legislator Cayley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a further point that that I omitted prior to this, and respectfully, because coming on in 2008 and learning the ropes as I did, I won't be cycling off. This basically has little effect on you, but I understand that you're terming out. But I think the other thing that smacks me and comes back to, is it fair to all concerned? We are doing this mid-cycle. We are doing this mid-year. Why would we not be doing this after the first of the year or January? Why would this not be held until January 2014 instead of mid-year? Again, of the 29th of the budget or whatever we're going to look for, because the whole budget, I mean, honestly speaking, the whole budget doesn't all get consumed by your side and my side. It gets consumed by the clerk's side as well. So why are we doing this mid-cycle, mid-year? This is what makes no sense to me.
Legislator Cayley is...
It's a question through you.
A question through me?
Yeah.
Legislator Tucciarello will answer the question.
Thank you, Chairman Howland. This issue has been under discussion since the makeup of this body changed in January of this year, but we were doing our due diligence to ensure that this is a fair and equitable measure for the people of Monroe County. Quite frankly, at this point in time, the Minority Caucus has approximately $8,000 extra money going towards their coffers from the District 16 election. So I think it's been beneficial to them up to this point, and it's about time that we actually set it straight. Thank you.
Legislator Cayley.
Again, I would ask for, through you, the question still remains, the timing of this particular referral, that simply put, why did we not do this in January when Dr. Carbone was seated?
Legislator Cayley, I think the question was just asked and answered. At least I heard an answer there.
I heard an answer, sir, but it wasn't a good answer. I'm sorry. Not a good answer.
Well.
When we are told, no, never mind, not going there. Again, I would urge that you vote against this. I don't see much hope in that. That's my last statement. And I will be repeating the four-way test at the full legislative session. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Legislator Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tyranny of the majority. It was a great concern of the founders of this great nation. And I never really understood what they meant by it. But I think I'm starting to understand that today. You have the power, but with power comes a responsibility to do more than simply everything that you want to do more than to simply seek retribution at every turn. And it will change in turn.
Where are we going with this? Are we stating an opinion? Are we?
I guess I'll call it, yes, I'm explaining my vote. So yeah, I'll be voting against this.
Any further discussion? We'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
3-2, passes.
Okay, the referral passes.
Referral 13-161.
Moved by Legislator Racco, seconded by Legislator McCann. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The referral passes. Is there any unfinished business to come before this committee? There being no unfinished business, the May 20th, 2013 meeting of the Agenda Charter Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Agenda Charter Committee is scheduled for June 24th, 2013.